Here we go. Alright, I want to try to do a video real quick. It's 1:15. I'm going to try to keep this under 10 minutes. Just want to explain, anybody that actually cares or gives a rip, how I became an Alabama Crimson Tide fan. Hello, I got my microphone here. Hello, 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 hello. This thing's kind of funny. It's a prop. I got this.
The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
Say that again. Say that again. Hello, hello. Just hang on. Hello. Roll Tide. Roll Tide. So real quick. So a few months ago, we got these guys that I work with. Okay, and for the sake of privacy, we'll just call them Derek and Joey. It's not their real names, but those are the names I'm going to use just for the sake of privacy. And Joey has known me quite a while. We've worked together in the past, and we've known each other for a long time. And he kind of knows me from a long time ago when I was a Miami Hurricanes fan. And I was never quite the Miami Hurricanes fan that I was as a Miami Marlins fan, Florida Marlins fan, or Miami Dolphins fan. I was a Miami Dolphins fan for many, many years. That was one of my first teams, one of my first love was the Miami Dolphins when I was a young fan of sports. Over the years, over the last several years, I've kind of not really liked watching football or following football as much as I did when I was younger, and for many different reasons. A lot of it was the political stuff. I just really grew weary of the nonsense and the shenanigans and all the crap that it really was. And also just the way the league has changed. When I was young, back in the 80s and 90s, watching football, it was a more physical, more violent sport than it is today, and it's changed so much. And I'm not against all that. I'm really not hating the league for all the protocols, all the changes they made. They faced a lot of lawsuits from guys that played in the 70s and 80s from concussions and brain damage. And I understand all that, I understand that. But that's one of the things I loved about football when I was a kid was just the physicality, the violent nature of it. And I played football. I didn't play organized football. I didn't really like organized football that much. I tried out for the high school team, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like all the pads and the helmet and all that stuff. I was so used to playing with my friends in the neighborhood. I was so used to playing like in the backyards, or I remember we used to play out here on the side of California Boulevard when there weren't any houses out there. We'd play like in the open field there, and sometimes we had to watch out for cars. And I remember the creek out there. It's not there anymore, I don't think. They've been building so many roads out here and so many houses and neighborhoods, but we used to play in the creek, and that was a lot of fun. But when it came to college football, when I was a kid, I liked the Florida Gators because everyone else liked the Florida. I'm from Florida. We had Florida State, Miami, and, some of my family members were, I used to see Gators. I don't know if they were diehard Gator fans, but that's what I used to know when I was growing up. We had the Gators and the Dolphins, and that's all I really knew. I didn't know much about the other teams, the Buccaneers, which they were terrible when I was a kid. Nobody was a Buccaneers fan when I was a kid. And, I knew of teams like the 49ers, Joe Montana, and I said I was going to try to keep, it's already been over 5 minutes, but let me get to the point about Alabama. Let me get out of all that. So, I haven't really followed college football in several years. It's been many, many years. And I wasn't a Miami Hurricanes fan until, I guess that's where I was going with that. I remember when I lived in Myrtle Beach back in 2000, 2001, South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, big time college football fans there. It's big. Golf and college football is big in Myrtle Beach. And so I kind of got on that, ride. And during that time, I was a Gator fan for a few years when I was in middle school. but I didn't watch a lot of college football as I got older. I kind of got away from a lot of sports. Basketball, I was a big Chicago Bulls fan, Michael Jordan. And then, after a while, I just kind of stopped watching some of the sports. I watched the Dolphins for anybody knows me, I was a diehard Dolphins fan for many, many years. I had a lot of ups and downs, as with my fandom with them. But, yeah, so I remember in 2000, I remember when the Canes, they weren't good for many, many years, for a few years. But then Butch Davis kind of brought them back to relevancy, and they had a really good year. And I remember watching their victory over Florida State that year. And I think they were the number 2 team or number 3. But somehow, back then the BCS was very controversial and very tricky. They didn't have playoffs, and everything was computerized. And they were really, they should have been in a national championship game that year, but they got edged out, I think, by Oklahoma. And I think Oklahoma didn't really put up much of a game that year. I don't remember all, but I remember Miami had a big win over Florida State. I think they were undefeated, and they got kind of shanked with their rankings, so they didn't end up in the national championship game that year. But the following year, they were like Roll Tide, like Alabama. I mean, they were phenomenal. And one of the things I always loved about Miami Hurricanes was all the players they used to bring to the NFL. I mean, every year they'd have 4, 5, 6 players drafted in the first round. And I mean, we're talking like Ray Lewis and Willis McGahee, Clinton Portis, Reggie Wayne, Edgerrin James, all these great players, phenomenal players that went on to the NFL from Miami, and they went on to be big-time players in the NFL. And that's one of the things I loved about Miami was just the players that they produced in the NFL. Kind of like what Alabama does now and what they've done over the last few years. But after Butch Davis left and after the national championship game that they won, but then the following year they lost to Ohio State in a game I felt like they got robbed in triple overtime due to a bad pass interference call. They haven't really done anything since then. They've been very mediocre to horrible over the last 2 decades, and over the years, I haven't really paid much attention. I mean, I remember in 2007, I went to the last 2 Orange Bowl games that they played in, and it was just embarrassing the way they played those last 2 games, especially the last one. They got beat 48-0 to Virginia. And I mean, I drove down to Miami all by myself. I spent the money, on the tickets. I parked in somebody's backyard for $20 back-to-back weeks. And for them to just, play the way they played and lose the way they lost, it just, year after year, just started weighing on me. I'm like, why am I really supporting this team so much like this? Why am I wasting my money, wasting my time, and wasting my energy on something like this that doesn't really do anything? I was just my microphone. So, I mean, over the years, I just kind of got out of being a Miami Hurricanes fan. I mean, I still paid attention. I remember when I was out in Okeechobee, I worked out in Okeechobee for 2 years. And that's another town that's very big on college football. And out there, it's Florida State and Florida, big time. And a few Miami fans, but it's mainly Florida State, Florida out there. So I kind of got back into college football a little bit because of that. And I rooted, I would wear my Hurricanes hat, and I would, cheer on the Hurricanes. But they were still very irrelevant, kind of mediocre, not quite the U that they've been in past years. So, again, year after year, I just started getting kind of further away from being a fan of the U. And also just being, getting away from being a fan of football altogether because of all the political stuff over the last several years. But I did watch, from time to time I'd watch the national championship game or I'd watch some of the games, but I really didn't have a big interest in it. And I remember even this girl that worked in Okeechobee, She was a big Alabama fan, or at least I think she was married to somebody that was a big Alabama fan. So she was somebody I didn't really, her attitude or personality, I didn't care for her too much. So I probably said a few things here and there, about the Tide back then, that they stink or whatever, but I don't know. But so the last I did watch a couple years ago when Tua was there, and I remember the Dolphins when they traded away all their players, and they, everybody was saying they were tanking for Tua. So I paid attention a little bit to Alabama 2 years ago because I was seeing, what Tua, what kind of player Tua was, because that was the big rumor. Everybody was saying that the Dolphins were tanking that year so they could draft Tua. But then Joe Burrow came along for LSU, and he was like the second coming of Peyton Manning. He was the next Tom Brady. And sure enough, LSU, I watched that LSU Alabama game, and LSU beat them. And then they went on to the national championship game, and I watched them beat Clemson in that game. And that was really the only college football I've watched in the last few years, was those two games for LSU. And last year, I didn't pay attention to football at all. I watched Brady. That was interesting to me, watching Tom Brady play for the Buccaneers. I watched a few of their games, and I watched the championship, the Super Bowl. But again, not a diehard football fan. I'll tune in and watch it from time to time, and I'm not even close to as serious about football as I used to be when I was younger. But people will always kind of remind me of how fanatical I was, and I was like, man, that was a long time ago. I was a different person then. Now I'm more into other things as far as what I'm very serious about or fanatical about. But football to me is just a show. It's just entertainment. I tell people all the time, I watch football the same way I watch anything else on television. It's just a show. It's just a TV show. Yeah, I might find somebody to root for, but at the end of the day, whether they win or lose, it's not going to affect how I go about my day. It's not going to affect my personality, my attitude. I'm not going to go to work the next day and be sulking or be, don't talk to me because my team lost, or as some people do. Some people just don't even come to work. They'll call in sick because their team got beat. And I just think that's very childish and just petty and stupid. And I know, because I was one of those guys a long time ago. I mean, I used to fight with friends and argue with people at work and in school over my football teams or over my favorite football players. And you just when you're kids, when you're young, you just do a lot of stupid things, and that's how I was. So, but I'm glad that I'm not that way anymore. I do get a little bit heated about certain politics, because that's some serious stuff. Politics is some serious stuff, and a lot of stuff that's going on in our country right now is very serious. And when I hear somebody making light of it and saying things when I feel like it's very ignorant and uninformed, then I'm gonna have something to say about that, But when I'm at work, I try not to. I try not to get into it. I hear a lot of stupid things when I'm at work, and I have to, keep a level head and be like, listen, man, this is a job. They might be foolish and unwise, but you don't have to be like them. So I always try to get away from all that kind of talk and try to focus. When I'm at work, I try to focus on my job, do my job. And anything I talk about with other people, I try to keep it not serious. I try to keep it lighthearted, fun, and I try to stay away from people that are always complaining, always negative about everything. So I try to keep a good spirit, a head when I'm at work, and I just don't let all these things, or I try not to let these things get the best of me or get me frustrated and upset, because there's enough, there's a lot of things at work that can upset you and get you frustrated, and you just got to keep your cool. You just got to keep calm, and I've had moments where I've lost it. I've lost my cool and my calm, and I don't want to do that, especially at work. It's not a good look. It's embarrassing, and I've done it many times before, and I felt stupid afterwards. So, I try to just keep the peace and keep things kind of light and keep things just kind of. And if somebody doesn't want to follow in that way, then I just do my best to just kind of, okay, keep away. But anyways, Derek and Joey are Miami Hurricane fans. And Derek is a huge Miami Hurricanes fan. And he wants everybody to know that he's a big Hurricanes fan. Joey, he's a long time from that area, lived down there. I think he's got a daughter that goes there, I think. I'm not sure. But Joey is not that serious. But, he's the one that'll throw up the U and, he'll say this and that. And it's all in fun. But Derek is the one that gets really serious and wants everybody to know. And so ever since May, as far back as I can remember, Derek has been talking about Miami because I guess they looked pretty good last year. I think they were 8-3 last year. According to him, they look good. I don't, because their wins are against teams that are not ranked. They haven't beat anybody significant in 20 years. They haven't done anything significant in 20 years, and I know because I've been a fan, not very close. I haven't been closely watching. I haven't been a diehard fan for the last several years, but I know they haven't done anything. And for these people, these Hurricane fans, to continually, every time they win a few games against non-ranked opponents, everybody starts talking about the U is back. The U is back. I mean, they have a few players still, they get drafted in the NFL, not like they used to. But I just get tired of hearing that. The U is back. The U is back. How about we wait until they actually win a national championship game before we start crowning them and saying the U is back? Okay, just because they win a few games during the regular season and maybe look like they might challenge for they can't even win a division, let alone their conference. They can't win their conference, which isn't even the most competitive conference in college football. They can't even win a division. And they can't even beat basketball programs. I mean, they struggle with teams like Duke and North Carolina, and those are basketball. I mean, North Carolina does have a better football team than what they've had in the past. But still, I'm just like, you keep acting like Miami is the Miami from the 80s or the early 2000s, and they're not. They haven't been that in years, so stop acting like, oh, the U is back. And I just got sick of it. So I hear this guy talking about them for months. And he's been talking about this game, this Alabama game. And I keep hearing about it, and I'm laughing. I can't help but laugh. I'm like, are you kidding me, man? You really think Miami has a chance against Alabama? You really think Miami's going to beat Alabama? And, after a while, he started changing his tune a little bit. And I figured it out. I haven't really been paying attention, but I did see the draft this past year. And I know that a lot of Alabama players, just like last year and the year before that, but this year I think they tied the record. I think they had 6 players get drafted in the first round. I mean, I think all 3 of their receivers got drafted, I think. I know 2 of them did. One of them went to the Dolphins, and one went before him. Their running back got drafted. Their quarterback, for the past 2 years, they've had first-round quarterbacks get drafted. I think Jalen Hurts was even a first-rounder the year before that. But they've had so many players get drafted. And here's Miami, right? And they got this quarterback that they think is possibly, a candidate, somebody that might compete for the Heisman Trophy. So they got this quarterback that looked pretty good last year. He's a dual threat. And they're returning most of their players from last year. While Alabama, of course, their players, get drafted every year. So he's got all this figured out. He thinks, okay, Miami has a more experienced team. They're going to get better. They're returning all their starters. And Alabama, all their players got drafted. And it's the first game. It's in a mutual field, so Miami's going to have a chance. And I'm just sitting back laughing, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding me, man. You've got to be kidding me. And this has been going on for months. This goes back probably back before Memorial Day. And so all summer long, and this guy, and he's the one that always starts it. I mean, he accuses me. Everybody thinks that I'm the one because, anybody that knows me from the past knows that I can be one of those obnoxious fans too. I mean, I'm a trash talker. I can be one of those guys. I can get fanatical. I can get, I can get the mask. I can get the hair going. I can get all the stuff going. People know me. I can be that guy too. So I had been doing that. I started doing that, and as we got closer to September, once we got to July, August, and once we got all the way to there's a phone call. Once we started getting closer and closer and closer, the talking was getting more and more and more. And I was having fun with it. I really was. I was just having a lot of fun with it because I haven't really had this much fun talking about football or, following football in years. It's been a long time since I've gotten this way. So, I kept joking about, what's going to take place and how it's all going to go down. And, he says his stuff, like there's a hurricane warning. And I just laugh and I'm just like, Roll Tide. And, at first I was just kind of trolling these guys. It wasn't like I'm an Alabama. So people were starting to wonder, are you an Alabama fan? Because I was, the way I was talking, going back and forth with them, you'd swear I was an Alabama fan. And I'm like, no, I'm just trolling these guys because they keep talking about Miami and the U is back and Miami's going to shock the world. And I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. I'm laughing. So, but, after a while, I started really, I started watching some of their previous games, some of their championship games from years past. I started watching some of their recent videos on Alabama, on YouTube, and watching some of their interviews and stuff. And the more I started, after a while, I started, it just kind of escalated and it just kind of I developed and I just started becoming a fan. I was getting all this stuff. I was buying like this stuff on YouTube, or not YouTube, I'm sorry, Amazon. I was getting all these Alabama stickers and magnets and all these signs, and I was sticking them up everywhere. And I kept joking about the boogeyman, the Alabama boogeyman. Alabama's this big boogeyman. And I kept telling Derek and Joey that, he's coming, and I kept joking with him. I was playing like the music from Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween and all those scary movies, and I was and finally I got this boogeyman mask. I got the Michael Myers boogeyman mask, and I started, wearing it. I'd show up, in places, and I'd be like peeking around the corner, and I was having fun. They would laugh, and we had fun with it. And I stuck these Alabama stickers all over, the mask, and I don't have the mask with me right now. But I wish I did. But so it was just, it was just fun. Just being a kid again, having fun. But in the process, I just, as time went on and as every day went on and as Joey and Derek I'd be at work doing my job, and they would just, every now and then they just say something or joke about something. They were the ones that were always poking the bear. And I just responded. That was me. I wasn't, instigating or trying to start anything. I wasn't the one, bragging, but they were the ones that kept poking the bear. And I'm the kind of guy, it's like, okay, you want to talk? Let's talk. So I go back and forth, and then other people were getting in on it, but they were only seeing the side that they wanted. They thought that, I was the big bragger. I was the one that was talking, but I was like, no. They're the ones that start this stuff. I'm just the one that responds because I know exactly what's going to happen on Saturday, on September 4th. I know exactly what's going to happen. I'm very confident that, Alabama is going to roll right over the U. And so, and then I met this guy out on my route who was also a big Alabama fan. And we talked quite a few times about some things, and we had a lot more in common too. But it just really escalated, and I just ended up becoming a real fan. It wasn't just this game. It wasn't just about Miami, but I just started to really like Alabama. I liked the red. I liked their logos and their uniforms, and I was trying to figure out what's the deal with the elephant, because I'm like, and how did they get the name Crimson Tide? So I was looking all that stuff up, and it was somewhat interesting. I mean, if you're an Alabama fan, it's not super interesting how they got the name Crimson Tide or how they got an elephant to be their mascot or logo. I mean, there's not really much of a story to that. I'm not going to get into that. You can look that up. I'm already way past the amount of time that I wanted to spend on this video. But yeah, so I mean, it just got in me. I kept saying Roll Tide, and and we just kept joking and having fun at work, and it just became, and not to mention, I do like some of the play. I've seen Miami over the last few years draft a few Alabama players, and so I like seeing that. Every time they have a draft, I'm like, that's where you need to look, Clemson or Alabama. Look at these teams that are, look at these championship teams. Look at these teams. They come right out of the gate ready to play. So I hope Tua does good with the Dolphins this year. If he doesn't, it's not going to be any sweat off my back. I mean, it's just like I said, it's just a show. I don't care. I don't take this stuff personally. I don't take it to heart. Some people do, and I get it. I used to be one of those people too, but I'm glad I'm not anymore. That right there is what I take seriously. I take that seriously. My faith in Christ is what I take. That's what I take very seriously. That's what I'm loyal to right there. They call me. Listen. You want to be a loyal fan of your team, fine. But my thing is, why